So, and others of you are new, welcome. Those of you that were not able to attend last time or are newly onto the team. Okay, cool. And Allison is not going to be here either. She, for the next 2 times, she's not going to be. I don't know about her. So, for those of you that were not at the first meeting, my name is Linda Waters, and I'm a certified mediator and facilitator. I provide conflict resolution and communication services in Washington State. I am based in Ellensburg. We've been here for almost 20 years. And I am here because, some of you will have heard this, by the way, before, but there are enough new members that I'm just going to go through it, so just, you know, if you don't want to listen to it. But it's good for you anyway. So I'm here because I'm a process facilitator. That is, I guide and monitor the process, how the team works, so that team members can really focus on the what and the why of the issues that are at hand. That's why I'm here. I encourage, I'll do a little bit of repetition, but I encourage those of you that were not at the last meeting to take a look at the video of that to get more information. It is on the website and Facebook. And the website for the school district is now listed on the bottom or somewhere on your roster. I haven't actually looked to see where it is. It's on your roster. Yes, so as is listed in the charge for the team by the school district, the purpose of this team is to seek a common vision for the Ellensburg Middle School. That's why everybody's here. And that's why we have a fair amount of time to do it. There's a bit that needs to be done. The team members have been handpicked by the school board to ensure the most inclusivity possible of the range of viewpoints, the number of people, the range of people who have commented on this issue, so that when there is consensus in here, that increases greatly the likelihood of a consensus outside of this room or outside of this team. There are further specifics about what the team is to do in your charge. So if you have any questions, those of you that are, that have just come in, Michelle introduced the charge last week. You could probably ask her, or Meg is on the school board, and Dick. Oops, I put you together. Oh well. It was going to happen sooner or later. So I put together the seating chart, by the way, and so I'm always trying to spread people around, but every time's going to be different. So, just as a reminder as well, this is a team meeting, but it is open to the public and it's open to observers. There will be a brief period for public comment at around 8 o'clock, but there are also cards. I'm not sure this is true. There are also cards available for observers to make comments if you either don't want to speak or if you would want to stay around till 8 o'clock. Although it's really fun, and during the breaks there's snacks. This meeting is also being filmed by Jerry Aldrich back behind you, and as all the meetings will be, and all of those videos will be posted on the website and accessible also by the Facebook page. Jack will take care of that. So the process we'll follow in this group to make decisions is consensus. And the reason it's set up like this is because that will give the group the best chance of coming to an agreement, to reaching a common vision for the Ellensburg Middle School. It's not the quickest way to make decisions, but it is a very robust way of making decisions and creates very strong agreements once you get through it all. For the purposes of this team, consensus, the definition of consensus, is a decision-making process that seeks to obtain the consent of all participants to the decision by by meeting their fundamental needs. A consensus decision is an acceptable resolution to an issue that some participants may not feel is the best decision, but which they can live with, support, and commit themselves not to undermine. And that definition is also in your binders, I believe. It was put in there last week anyway. And unfortunately, Tor isn't here right now, but after the last meeting, Tor came up to me and said, you know, really, how realistic is it to get consensus on this contentious issue? You know, this has been going on for a while. And so I wanted to share with you both his question and also my answer to that. My answer is that I don't know if it's realistic. I don't know. But I do believe that it's possible. And that's why I'm here. It really depends on everyone's openness to listening, to getting clear on the fundamental interests of everyone here on the team, and any interests that are funneled to you from people outside the team, and reconsidering positions that we might have come in here with, that the team might have come in here with, in order for the solution to meet all of these fundamental interests. And so that last part is really about flexibility. Okay, listen and say, is there another way other than the one that is in my head, or that is somebody else's, in somebody else's head? Is there something that we can bring forward from that solution to create a common solution? I also, I really do know that consensus is the most likely form of decision making to get this team to come to a common vision. And here's just a quick history from me. I'm very familiar with the consensus process. I've used it for years, and including when I was managing the final phases of construction of a $4.5 million construction, well, this is 20 years ago, so that was a lot then, housing development. And the group that was developing this housing development used the consensus process exclusively. I don't recommend that again, but it was a lot of consensus there. And so I know that the joys of consensus can be really wonderful, because once you get through it all and you come up with an agreement, then everybody can support it. I also know the horrors of that. I'm not Pollyanna about this, because it means that we have to listen to everyone, and we have to meet the needs, the fundamental needs of everyone on this team. So it's messy, and it's also strong. And also I would point out, consensus seems like this big scary word that has a definition that's 2 sentences long, but really it's about making agreement here, coming to agreement with this group. And I'll just point out that last week, the group came to 5 consensus decisions. The first one was, and this seems naive, but this counts. There was consensus that no team members were unwilling to move ahead with the meeting according to the agenda provided. So people were willing to move ahead with that. There was consensus about the agenda. There was consensus about allowing me to intervene using the ground rules that were set up during that meeting, and also consensus that everyone would follow the ground rules set up last time for that meeting. There was consensus about everybody limiting themselves to the 3-minute time limit, which was absolutely good. And also, and I don't have the exact wording on this, and you can get it from the video, but the team would review any materials summarized or created by individual members or subgroups before they were passed out as any kind of official press release or anything from the team. So there's already 5 consensus decisions. I'll talk about this more next week, but there's a tool that actually this organization developed for use in this kind of situation that uses 5 colored cards. And I'll go through what these mean, but they're kind of a way of short-circuiting all the talking, that once you raise these things, we'll agree on what the colors mean, and we'll use those to communicate. So when when calls for consensus are happening, once I go through this process, we'll be able to use those cards. And I bring this up because several people indicated a concern about what is the process going to be, how in the world is this group going to reach consensus. There are ways that people have addressed things that are more difficult even than this issue here. So, and regarding a totally different type of decision-making, that is the legal system, I want to remind people that the school board will take any recommendations from this team very seriously. However, the final decision legally is up to the school board. So I just want to remind everybody of that, and everybody who's observing that is, in fact, the world in which we operate. Any questions about any of that stuff? Okay. So just a little bit more for me. I'd like to go around again and have everyone introduce themselves, a little bit shorter this time. So it's just going to take a little while for everybody to get to know each other. So if you could say your name and how you would like to be addressed, nicknames or anything like that. And then your primary connection to the Ellensburg Middle School issue. That is your parent maybe, or an involved citizen, or a school board member, or whatever it is. And if anyone would like to, you can share one thing that you would like to see happen during this meeting in order for it to be time well spent for you. If you'd like to do that, you can address that. So, who'd like to start? Okay, I think Jimmie, next time you get to start. Jimmie's going to start. I know, I tried to make it so everybody could see you.
I'm Jimmie Applegate. Jimmie, please. My concern has been for some time regarding the construction of the Morgan Middle School. I'm not totally a novice.
Scott Rollins, I'm a grandparent of some kids that will be coming through the school in a few years. I got excited about the project after the last levy and have spent a lot of time on it, anxious to help radio.
Mollie, Edson, kids have gone through school and just very interested in having our community move forward past this levy.
Bibich, presumably on the school board, and I had 4 kids that went through the system, and I got 7 grandkids that more than likely will go stick around the system here too.
Ludlum on the school board, to grandchildren. Too late for this to help.
I'm Joanne Hildeman. I'm a mother of 2. My boys, I think, are just past being able to go into a new or renovated middle school at this point, but I have keen interest in seeing this project move forward. I'm a registered architect in the state and have been in facilities planning for over 30 years and have been working at Central Washington University in the facilities planning department for 16 years and with the local building department for 16 years.
Farris, Superintendent of the
McCloskey just finished my 30th year in the Ellensburg School District, 24 of them as a teacher at home.
Pfeifer, I helped co-host the Loran survey earlier, and I had 4 kids go through the system. I'm actually a Damon school board member as well.
I'm Baldovinos. I'm here as a parent. I also work for the Washington State Auditor's Office. I have 3 kids in elementary school. It'd be nice to have a middle school soon. No major concerns. I was just really surprised when we didn't have votes last time. I'm doing a good job. Seeing all that changes this time.
Bibich, I'm the principal at Loran Middle School.
I'm Dist. I'm with the city of Ellensburg. Put forth a proposal that was a part of the city and the district.
as important to the potential solution, it's not the solution, I'm not sure they really care about it. Just felt like something needed to be injected in the conversation to change the dynamic. And the city is continuing pursuing the possibility of the old building becoming a community center.
My name is Loran Cutsinger. I'm a parent whose son has already finished with K through 12 in Ellensburg, and I'm a concerned citizen. I'm Dorothy Casura, mother of a child that went to Morgan Middle School, grandmother to a granddaughter who graduated from Ellensburg School and went to Morgan Middle School. And I consider myself an adopted great-grandmother to Maya, who will be coming sooner or later. Just call me Dorothy.
Okay, thanks, everybody. So I'd encourage you to get to know each other. I mean, we're going to have a chance for 4 months. We're going to be working intensively together. And so I would encourage you to do, to get to know each other. So next on the agenda, I would propose actually some changes to the agenda. So according to the agenda, there would have been a clarification about the difference between this team and the bond committee. We put it early onto the agenda because we thought that there was going to be the bond attorney coming over from Spokane, and we didn't want to make him sit through too much. Turns out that for what needed to be said, Paul is the designated speaker about that. So we're going to kick him back because he's going to be here the whole time anyway, okay? So he doesn't know about this. Nobody knows about this. I just decided this afternoon. But because what I'd like to do now, what I propose is that we move the approval of the agenda next, so that we get in the rhythm before we do much of anything else. And hopefully this is the most I will talk anymore in any of these meetings. That we will approve the agenda first and then move through it throughout the evening. So any comments with moving the approval of the agenda forward? Okay. So also I just recently, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, I have a question. Moving it forward, does that mean there will be a process for adding or revising the agenda?
Right now, yeah.
That will be coming up. You're not asking the approval. I didn't quite understand.
I'm sorry, yeah.
That's okay.
What I'm proposing is that we consider the agenda now rather than after Paul speaks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a process, approving the agenda.
Yeah, we'll discuss the agenda, and then the process will be that the team will accept the agenda as either as written or changed. So I just want to say a little bit. Also, I got a just very recent request to add a small 5-minute break, an additional 5-minute break into the process, so that we don't sit for any more than 1 hour. I'm not quite sure how that's going to fit. So that is also a proposed addition here. I'm thinking, not sure, but probably after the round robin for new members before we review the results, which would be about an hour from the starting time. Before we go into discussion about that, I would, in the interest of transparency, like to share when I say we about the agenda what that means. What that means is that I have drafted agenda and put the items in that seemed like they needed to be in there, put them in order, and give them times. That's also, I have then run that past a support team that consists of Paul Farris, Meg Ludlum, Dick Wedin, and Michelle Bibich. And that meeting is open. Those meetings are open to anyone now. We had to start somewhere, and that group of people started. And so there were suggestions for the first agenda. We talked about, what needed to happen and just for that part of it. So just want to be transparent about that. That support team is open to anyone to attend. At this point, the meetings are set for 11 o'clock on the day after each of these meetings. So 11 o'clock on the Thursday after our Wednesday meetings. So anyone's open to attend those. Those will be in the school, those happen in the school district offices. And this is basically to talk about what the agenda is going to be next time, maybe talk about how the meeting went, if there were any process changes that needed to happen, any concerns that people have. So everyone's invited to attend that. So I would propose that now we, just to be clear about what the proposal was, that we insert a 5-minute break after the round robin for new members and move the 10-minute break to a point that hopefully will be natural sometime after that. Not sure right now, we kind of cut into a process, but we'll do that. So are there any questions or clarifications or additions or subtractions from the agenda? Loran, you said that you had something?
I would like to insert an item in the agenda on clarification of the relationship between Strategic Planning Facilities Committee and this committee, and maybe in general about information coming out to the public. I mean, with regard to information that's coming out to the public, that's probably two different things. So,
And you would like to add it to the agenda?
yes.
How much time would you like to spend on that?
Maybe 10 minutes.
Okay. And on both of them together?
Yeah, the Strategic Planning Facilities Committee recommendations and concerns about information coming out to the public from any source.
Okay, where would you like to insert that? Oh, we'll just read on the test.
Maybe after historical perspectives, possibly.
Okay, and what would you propose to take the time from?
Round robin for new members, I don't know if you plan 33 minutes for each, but 6:25, there's 15 minutes for that. I don't know if we have enough new members that you would need 15 minutes. Maybe, I'm just trying to think out loud, but maybe it could come from
I
that.
believe there are 5 members that weren't here. Oh, no, because Jennifer did 3. You didn't get a chance to do the round robin on the agenda. Okay, so you would propose taking 5 minutes from that? Or 10 minutes from that, so leave it for 5 minutes? Oh, there's 4.
Yeah, that probably would have been,
Oh, yeah.
enough time for that.
Yeah, there's 4, so that's 4.
It'd probably have to be another little adjustment, but if there's no break,
Okay, so I would like to...
maybe if,
Okay.
the draft timeline.
Okay, so...
So it's 45 minutes, oh yeah. Well,
So...
I'll open it up to other people to say what they...
Yeah, before we talk about where it might go, this is just a, that question is just because this will be something that...
I just want to say personally, I feel I need a clarification on that.
Okay, today?
Today.
Okay.
I think it might be appropriate for that to be discussed briefly under the historical perspective also. Wouldn't you?
You willing to do that, Paul? Would that suffice for the clarification between the facilities committee and this committee? I mean, this team is not...
What would be to take the time from historical perspective?
To include it in historical perspectives.
And maybe then a little bit of time from round robin committee members, if it calculated out to be possible.
Okay. And then also, any other comments or concerns about how do people feel about adding this, making this change to the agenda?
think it's helpful.
Okay. Is there anyone who is unwilling to make that change to the agenda? And you're willing to include that in that? Okay. And then also there were concerns, we wanted to talk about concerns of info coming in, information coming out to the public and from this.
Yeah, the connection to the strategic planning facilities committee is that it was in the most recent ESD newsletter. That's where I saw it.
Okay.
It raised questions for me that I'm seeking to have addressed and answered or discussed.
Okay. Now, would that work for you in terms of putting it in the draft timeline when items will be discussed about where they'll go in different meetings?
Are you in this particular agenda this evening? What about that?
Did you want to put the concerns about information flow into this meeting today?
Yes, but I recognize that there's really small time constraints on that, so. Would you leave that off?
Okay. Would you be willing to bring that up during the timeline discussion when we talk about all the items that need to be discussed? Okay, great. Okay, thanks. Okay, any other comments about the agenda? Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, sir.
It's kind of obvious that people might be coming with some new things, so in developing it might be smart to leave 10 minutes of free time and we can pull some of these things into instead of, painfully waiting for her to figure out where we put it.
And also, this is great. That's a great comment too. And this will hopefully be the last time that I create the agenda. Because that is something that is the responsibility of the team and also the freedom of the team has the freedom to do that. So I will make a note that we can, and maybe if you could remember that too, Scott, when we get to the agenda thing, that to leave 10 minutes for new business. Okay. Okay, great. So, call for consensus. Is everyone willing to follow the agenda as changed? We don't use the word like. Okay, great. So I'll just go quickly through, and thanks, Loran, for voicing those. So I'd like to just go quickly through the ground rules again. And some of you, you've already heard that, some of this from last time. And these ground rules are the ones that are revised. These will be the ones that, once the group reaches consensus on ground rules, will continue for the remainder of the team meetings unless the team chooses to change them. So they're in your books or they're in the packets. You can take a look at them and follow along. Any observers, if you would like some information about that, we have some extra packets. Does anybody want to see this as well? I'll read them out loud, but just let me know if you do. So the ground rules are basically the guidelines that the team sets up for itself and with others in the room about how will we behave with each other during the meetings. That's basically what the ground rules are. Taking time up front to set these ground rules will actually save us a lot of time down the road. So following these will help that. I'll just read them out loud, maybe make a few comments about them, and then we'll have time for discussion and acceptance of whatever the group comes up with. So the first one is to test your assumptions and inferences. That is, don't treat your guesses about other people as facts. Share all relevant information. There's really nothing to be gained in this process and a whole lot of trust to be lost if you hold back important information. For example, all of the costs, for example, every single cost. If you don't include all the costs for building a new building or remodeling or renovating the old building, that helps no one if you leave that information. So this ground rule would be to share all relevant information that you have. Use specific examples and agree on what important words mean. That is, for example, A specific example would be you didn't get back to me when I emailed you twice, versus you never get back to me when I emailed you. Okay, the first one you can actually answer, the second one, how do you discuss that? Fourth, explain your reasoning and intent. This will help others understand what's important to you, and also suggesting, giving an idea of why they're coming up with why you're coming up with a given solution or idea. Focus on interests, needs, or concerns, and not just positions. There will be plenty of time to discuss solutions after the team has gathered more information. And the team will need to create a fusion of disparate views based on exploration of common interests. So you need to listen for what might be important for each team member under their opinions or the positions or the presented solutions. We talked about this more last week. Combine advocacy and inquiry, and all that means is that you share your ideas. Go ahead and share your ideas. We want to hear them. And also then check to make sure what other people have heard about your ideas and what they think about your ideas. That's the inquiry part. Jointly design the next steps and ways to test agreements. Testing agreements has to do with checking about what people are thinking about that, and jointly design next step, that's about the timeline that's coming up. Discuss undiscussable issues. This is about talking about the elephants in the room. If there are things that are not being addressed that everybody knows about, but nobody wants to talk about, it really, really helps to talk about it. Somebody bring them up. At least bring them up to me. I have no problem with talking about them. So, I work with divorce and divorce, so, anything's on the table. Any of that stuff. Number 9, use a decision-making rule that generates the level of commitment needed. In our case, this is consensus. And it's really the most effective for, as I mentioned before, it's the most effective for building consensus, for building agreement in a group like this. Number 10, treat your roommates. I kept doing that, I'm sorry. You might feel like that after a little while, but treat your teammates with respect, including communicating with a respectful tone of voice and body language. What was that, Dick?
If we sit and we roll much down 3 hours, we may be rude.
No, I won't last beyond day 30 for sure. So even if you don't like someone or you don't like their ideas, if you treat them with respect and you approach them with respect, the conversations can continue, the discussion can continue. Number 11, allow your teammates to complete their comments without interrupting. Number 12, listen attentively with an open mind and focus on the business at hand. That is, turn off your electronics, don't be texting, don't be checking your email. If you need to take a call, put it on vibrate and leave. Follow through, number 13, follow through on your agreements. Number 14, take care of yourself while continuing to treat the team with respect. What that's about is if you need to stand up, I have bad knees, and if I sit for too long, they get a little stiff, so I'll have a tendency to stand up and, just stand behind my chair or something like that. Please feel free to do that. We're all, at this point, we're all adults in here. But take responsibility for yourself and just minimize any disruption there. And lastly, anyone on the team may ask for a process check to make sure the team is following these rules or that everyone has explicitly decided to stop following the rules. For example, express concerns that you or another team member is not being heard, or that someone's trying to rush the consensus process somehow, in your opinion. Or, that the facilitator, me, is not acting in a neutral or an appropriate role, any of that stuff. Anyone may ask for a process check. Any questions or discussion about these ground rules? They're long, but pretty comprehensive. Okay? Okay, call for consensus. Are you willing to have me use the ground rules to intervene with the group for the remainder of the meetings unless we choose otherwise? Okay? So consensus has been reached there. Another call for consensus, are you willing to practice them during our meetings? Okay, another consensus, great. So, I'm done. Now, we'll have Paul talk about two things, clarification of the Team for a Common Vision versus the Bond Committee, and historical perspectives.
One of the things I just want to say is that this is not the bond committee. And I want to make it absolutely clear that this is not the bond committee. This is the team, we have a charge, try to identify a goal to try to reunify the middle school students. That's number one. And the second one is to, look at the 21st century middle school education. What is that? And so I just want to make absolutely sure that, for me, and I'll just give the example for me, I can be on the bond committee if it's outside my workday. I can promote the bond if it's outside my workday. There's a lot of things that I can do, but right now we don't have a bond committee. Nobody's a bond chairman. And what this team is really focusing on is can we all come together to reach a common vision in order to meet these two goals. And I just want to make sure that that's absolutely clear. Is there any questions on that? And the reason I bring that up is because it really started getting into some legal issues regarding whether or not this is because this is not a bond committee, this is a team for the common vision. The other thing I want to say is I have two handouts. One is because I'm on the email list and everybody here, and I want to make absolutely sure that this whole entire process is completely transparent. That's why we're videotaping it. We're putting it on our website. We got active notes going on. We're trying to be as transparent as we possibly can with the entire process. But there's a couple of handouts I just want to pass out. And that's email on the OPMA, or the Open Public Meetings Act. This is mainly for school boards and elected officials. And then the other one is when are meetings of committees of a governing body subject to the Open Public Meetings Act. And I'll just let you, they're two different, so maybe we start at both ends and then go back around the other way. And the reason I say that I'm on the string of email list is that with the 28,000 plus emails that I have on my computer, they're all subject to public disclosure, which means that anybody in the world who would like to see them, I'd be glad to provide them to them. So what I would really ask is that if you're discussing something and it's through email, just be aware that it is subject to Open Public Meetings Act, that I would have to provide that to anyone that asks. And I think that we, instead of you can always ask for information or clarification. I think that's great. But when it comes to actually discussing issues, my hope is that it's done here. Because I really want all the issues to be discussed here, transparent to the entire community, so that everybody can see that we're really trying to reach a consensus on these two goals. Any questions on that? Steve?
So what's a bond committee?
A bond committee is the one that will go out and actually promote and say, I'll give you an example. I can ask people to vote here. When I'm on the bond committee, I could say, I'd like you to vote yes.
So a bond committee is an advocacy organization, kind of a campaign committee.
Yes.
What would be an example for the legal issues that you would have?
Well, I would have a concern if someone here would say, what we need to do is this for the middle school so that
the community would vote in favor of it. Then we were kind of touching kind of a gray line. What we really want to say is, we want to really listen to everyone here in our community to be able to put together what, in order to reunify the middle school students and to reach that second goal. It's when it's kind of a gray line, but I just wanted to kind of just make everybody kind of a little bit aware of that issue. Putting out information that I can put out actual information about this project. I can't put out information that's subjective.
Well, I think one of the things that struck me when you were sharing, when you were talking about this the other day, was that, and this might help a little bit, is that if the conversations turned towards advocacy, then if that was found to be the case, then the PDC could invalidate an upcoming election.
Yes.
And so, to me, that resonated, that I'd rather not invalidate it before it starts.
So what could invalidate it?
That if we were acting as a team that's being directed to be together by the school board, if we were to act in an advocacy role, then we would be violating the public disclosure. And so then that way, it could then in turn invalidate the election. I think if I'm saying that.
That's right. This team acted as an advocacy role for the bond. Bruce?
Oh, sorry.
The Open Public Meeting Act is a snafu if we're not careful. I'm not clear in what you provided that we actually fall under that. I read it. So I think it's very important. I mean, it really is. I get that we need to be sensitive. I understand that we need to be transparent, but putting it under the regulatory framework of the Open Public Meetings Act is very different to a sensitivity of how we communicate and what we communicate. I would refer folks when you get a chance to look at the last paragraph, because it seems to speak to this committee. I don't know if we're talking about the court concluded that even viewed in the light most favorable to the plaintiff, the CAO team's role was advisory or informational, and there was insufficient evidence to establish that the team exercised actual or de facto decision-making authority. The court found therefore that the team's gatherings were not meetings under the OPMA. And if I may, if I heard, I think Linda correctly, this was framed that we are in fact providing advice. We are clearly not establishing policy, and we are making recommendations that the school board then ultimately either accepts or does not, but we are only advising them. And it's not that I want to parse this forever, but for people, I mean, my second question, for instance, within council, and Jesus can speak to this because he audits the city and looks at my emails. Just saying. But if we have more than 3 city council members discuss a policy issue through email, we're subject to Open Public Meetings Act. If we make the determination that we then fall under this umbrella, I am not clear that if I were to walk in and Steve and Mollie are there and Scott walks in because we're all downtown.
No, you wouldn't. You guys could have a discussion. What I'm trying to make clear is I'm on the email train, and my computer is purchased by the school district. Therefore, all of my emails are subject to public disclosure.
And I appreciate that, but I feel it's important for the committee members to understand that while there are members of the committee who are participating, who may be subject to the act, that our actions within the committee are not, because I believe, because it really does frame how we can communicate differently.
So perhaps this would be something that we need to include, if there is concern about this, that we need to include in a later discussion? Is that, or is there any further that needs to be done here? Steve?
I agree with Bruce's reading of the documents here, and of course, he has a lot of experience on this. Was this concern and the conversation we're having, was this triggered by the email from the Daily Record? Is that what we're talking about this?
This was actually...
I guess what I want to try to say is that you all can have the conversations, but since I'm on that email list...
No, we got that part.
Yeah, and that's what I mean.
School board members and their official email.
Yes.
So we won't say anything that will embarrass you, but that's a way different thing than having to tiptoe around this Open Public Meetings Act thing. And I'm with Bruce. I think that we should proceed as if we obviously maintain transparency in all of the things that Bruce said, but let's not get encumbered by trying to follow something that doesn't apply to us.
And that's what I was trying to get to.
Okay.
Might be relevant to my agenda changing request. Could you please clarify for everyone what you meant by, is this related to the Daily Record? Did I understand you to say just now, Daily Record blank?
I thought everyone received an email from Linda where she was forwarding what I read as a caution from Joanne Martell, the editor of the Daily Record, saying, hey, you guys might be subject to the open meeting thing, I want to be sure my reporter has access, etc. Did not everyone receive that email? No. Some of us did, some of us didn't. Well, anyway, that's what I was saying.
Who was that? Thank you.
No, I got it. I don't do that everywhere. And this is all the tax.
Did anybody not hear, not receive it?
Yes.
Dorothy, you did, by email?
No, she's not on the email.
Actually, she is.
I am now.
Oh, she is now.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that's updated on the website. Oh, you did, oh, yeah, you're right, good point. So if you have that.
Linda,
Yes, Jimmie.
I'm wondering if the discussion is not somewhat out of place because we are only advisory to the school board. What we discuss here is totally separate from what will happen once the school board agrees to a bond and that bond is put forward to the public. This committee will not meet, it's my understanding, after October 15th.
That's correct.
So how in the world can we become then an advocacy for a bond? It seems to me like we'd have to argue in here what we think needs to be in that proposal to have it be favorably considered. And that's totally different, it seems to me.
Yeah, and so just to clarify here, that this was basically a heads up. This is what I understood. This was a heads up from Paul to say, whatever is sent to the whole group, the whole world gets to see. Right. That's my understanding. Okay, great. And we can't advocate for a particular bond or a particular bond. Okay, and if you have any questions about that, you can ask Paul. Okay. Historical perspectives.
Oh, okay.
I'll get it.
One of the things I wanted to do was just as informational, we do have a historical perspective on the bonds, and you don't need to, it's not something that needs to be discussed at this time. I just thought you may want to have this information. And basically, it talks about the resolutions, the amount of what the bond was for, what the bond structure was, the cost of the project, and so forth. And this was for the 2006, 2007, 2008, and the 2013 bonds. The other piece of information that I gave was just a historical perspective of all M&Os and capital projects and transportations and bond authorizations in the state, just because I wanted everyone to have the information and if there's any questions as we move forward. Again, this is merely informational at this time. I would think that down the road, this may come into play a little bit more, but it's just something for you to be able to look at.
That it?
That's it.
Wow. Three minutes, Wes?
Oh, strategic facilities plan, do you have questions or?
I did, so my question was when I picked up the newsletter, from the most recent one, dated May 2014.
This is in your binders as well.
Yeah, this was in the binders given to us last week. And I wondered when I read this, first I appreciated the benefits and drawbacks of the summary, but when I was confused. Issues were raised in my mind about when I saw the section on strategic planning facilities committee recommendations, because it seems to read like a description of what our group is and what they've already recommended. So I was concerned that the public would think, perhaps rightly, all of this consideration has already been done. And so I was wondering if we could speak to this as a group, discuss it, so that people understand that what we're doing right now, either is it redundant with what's already been done, or, and then I did look up on the, when I looked on the Ellensburg School District website, I found that I believe this committee was in 2012, so that raised further confusion for me, and I need to help with this. I need help understanding and clarifying what this is in, because, for example, if people don't have it with them, it says that the committee included representatives from parent groups, senior citizens, business leaders, agricultural leaders, the arts community, MOM, Central Washington staff, district staff, and MOM, a local group which favored renovation over building new, agreed from the start the process to be open and transparent, all meetings were open to the public, et cetera, et cetera. So my concern is from anyone who can understand, is the current group that we're sitting in redundant to this? Am I wrong that this was 2012? And I was concerned that the public might be confused.
Does anyone have any comments in response to that? We have two members of the Women's Forum. So I'm seeing Meg and Mollie, you want to say something?
I still don't really understand the question.
Well, let me say what.
The question is about what the difference is, but I just follow up.
In my view, this is our predecessor committee, and since that bond didn't pass, we're trying it again, and we're trying to do it differently. So this is not, I think this is put here as background information of what has been done in the past, which I think is a little, perhaps should have been explained better. The other thing I would say is that the school district website is pretty obsolete in this regard. That's something I want to talk to support team about. There's a lot of stuff from the previous process, but this is a new and different committee starting over with somewhat different scope, different membership, different facilitator, different process. So it's not the same committee.
I fully admit that I don't know the background, but in this, there's nothing on this. Am I correct that it was from 2012?
And this doesn't say anything like that, so anyone who might just be joining in the process and thinking about since there has been a lot of press, people might be interested and they'll pick this up. Honestly, myself, I thought that it was something that just happened like in the last few months. This, because there's no indication otherwise at all on this.
I agree.
Thank you. I hope I'm making myself clear. I'm trying hard just to be as clear as I can about misunderstandings. Did that help with what my misunderstanding or concern is?
Well, yeah, I think that there's two separate, different committees. Whatever they were talking about was one that happened in the past, but I guess.
Yeah, like over 2 years ago before the last bond.
Right.
Yeah.
I will also speak to that just in terms of the process. The process here is explicitly includes not only diverse roles in the community, but people who have a widely divergent viewpoint on the issue. And also that the process itself is consensus. If there is no agreement on any recommendations to the school board from this team by the end of, October, then there are no recommendations. It is not majority rule, it is consensus. So that's one thing that's different, if that helps. So there's a different membership that is explicitly designed to get all the people who might be fighting about this, if they were all put in the same room with a little bit of structure. Does that help? And Joanne and Mollie, you were both at least started on the Facilities Planning Commission. Joanne, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I think that this could have been clarified, that this was a past committee previous to the last bond. And yeah, this is a new committee looking at basically reassessing any of the information that we had here and looking at various different options that could be totally different than what this committee came up with.
So, do you have anything more to add? Okay, and that may come up again. We can certainly discuss that again. Now, I'd like to take just a few moments to kind of continue the round robin for people that were not here during the meeting last time or were not here for that part of it. The round robin is basically when people can very briefly share their viewpoints on the middle school, what they're coming in with, whether it's concerns. As before, when the others are talking, when your teammate is talking, you want to listen for interests and concerns underneath any solutions they might put forward or positions that they might hold coming into this. Although this is not the time to lay out detailed solutions. There'll be plenty of time for that. And there's lots of divergence in this room about what possible solutions could be. So those who were not here for last week's meeting, so Mike and Jesus and Bruce and Joanne, you'll be asked to repeat your name and then briefly complete the statement. The middle school plan needs to be designed in such a way that, fill in the blank. This is to get at why, what's important to you about this? What needs to be there in order for you to get behind whatever solution happens. So when that happens, Jeff will again capture the essence of your answers up there so we don't have to deal with those big pieces of paper. And then I will check with each of you for accuracy, so I'll turn around and do that. And in fairness, I suggest that we follow the same process as last week. That is an issue that you have time, you have 3 minutes and no more than 3 minutes to share the information. So do the 4 of you agree that, so Joanne, Bruce, Jesus, and Mike, do you agree to that time limit, to follow that time limit? Bruce? Okay, so, great. I will set a timer for 3 minutes, and if it goes off while you're talking, please finish your sentence and stop talking. Feel free, if you have more that you want to say, to make notes about that and share it at a later time. Okay, so, Bruce, if you could start, repeat your name, and complete the statement, the middle school plan needs to be designed in such a way that.
Meets the needs of the students in the district, and addresses the issues of the historic institutions.
Since it was short, you want to repeat it?
It's better than the middle school plan needs to be designed in such a way that meets the needs of the students in the district and addresses the issues of the various constituencies.
Okay, so that sounds like you got it. Okay. Well, do you have a question? No. Oh, you spelled it wrong? Okay. That's what those red lines are for, right? Jesus.
Jesus Baldovinos. I think the plan needs to be designed with as very detailed specs as possible. I mean, anywhere, starting where the elevator's going to be at, or the stairs are going to be at, because I think people want to see that in order to know what it's going to cost and what they're going to be doing. So detailed specs is very important.
Anything else? Okay. Mike?
I'm Mike, and the middle school plan needs to be designed in such a way that allows for 21st century education, which meets the needs of all of our students, which is safe, which is equitable to the 2 new high schools and the 3 new elementaries we've built in the last 85 years, and which inspires creativity in our students.
So since this is actually considered me reading it over again, Mike, you want to just turn around and see if that's what you're going to say? Allows for?
Yeah, Jeff, can you put equitable to 2 new high schools and 3 new elementaries? Thank you.
And is that in this district? Okay, great. Joanne?
Would you repeat that beginning part of the sentence for me, please?
Sure.
Okay.
The middle school plan needs to be designed in such a way that...
In such a way that, that we improve the middle school facility. This is what other people have said, to meet 21st century learning environment that's fiscally responsible and is a safe learning environment that can pass a bond.
So Joanne, does it look like those 4?
Yes. Oh, I forgot to state my name, Jimmie.
You guys are great. We have some more time. We're going to have more time. Okay, so now it is almost time to take a break, but I need to reintroduce breaks to everybody here. And this will be the last time we'll do this. For this and other breaks in subsequent meetings, I will announce starting and ending times for breaks, and we will reconvene the group and continue with the agenda as soon as the break is scheduled to be over without rounding up team members or waiting for people to come back. I encourage you to be present with the group at all times during the meeting sessions because we are beginning to learn what everyone is bringing to the team. However, it is your responsibility to be where you need to be when the team is in session, and I will assume you are taking responsibility for balancing your personal needs with those of the group. For example, that you choose to continue a phone call in progress rather than returning to the group when the meeting reconvenes. So basically, you get to take care of yourselves. If you do need to be absent for an extended period of time or will not be returning to the meeting, please let one of us know so we're not worried about you. Okay, so it is now 6:36. We will reconvene, and this is the 5-minute break, so we'll reconvene at 6:41. Okay. Pass around and have a very brief comment about it.
This is not meant to set a precedent. It's only meant to encourage people to look at the daily record and read the letters therein. I would imagine that we're going to get letter after letter after letter very shortly. So I'm not going to do this anymore, just this time, because one of the persons in here said, well, he thinks it should be read at the school board meeting and at this meeting. They're just going around and take one and send it all around, but no more. For me.
Oh. I don't know if I believe that.
I remember he promised he wasn't going to write it. Okay, so everybody's had a chance, well, everybody except Joanne, sorry. Thanks for stepping up at the very last minute there. You had a chance to look through the results of last week's round robin comments. Did you even get those?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, you can borrow mine, and we'll get you some after this. So in going through the list, these are the ones that were emailed to you. In going through these lists, there seem to be several commonalities that, of concerns or interests among the comments, ways to begin to group the lists into additional, perhaps into additional decision criteria guidelines for assessing the suitability of any possible solutions to this, that this team considers for the middle school. So basically, the round robin was the beginning of creating all the things, all the items that this team needs to consider and take into account, discuss, come to consensus about before reaching, before there can be a common vision. So that's basically what that list of round robin stuff is. It's not the definitive list, it's simply the beginning. And let's see. Ooh, there was some questions in that, sorry about that. So are there any other, these are just the commonalities that there's a kind of combination where May went through and picked out some things, I came through and picked out some things. Are there any other things up here any other things that are up here that are not up here that you want to be up here in terms of kind of commonalities that you see? When you looked at those lists, are there any other things besides that the plan needs to have a bond that's affordable, that balances multiple needs or voices, that the bond is winnable and the terms are clear, that educational needs are met, that it fits with the community, that the location, the environment, the transportation around the school are considered, that the performing arts are served, that the process is transparent and communicated fully and clear, and that safety needs are met. What do you think about those? Now we have time for discussion. What do you think about those? Are there others that you would, are there anything that you would like to split apart in this? Anything you'd like to add? Michelle?
Well, I think that educational needs are met is a nice, succinct way to say something. But really, we're looking at like 2 layers of that because, we keep talking about 21st century learning, and hopefully with one of our timelines, we'll get a chance to really dig into what that means, or that so that we're all talking about the same thing. But then I think it's also really important to understand what it means to be educating middle school students. So I think I just want to make sure that is something that we keep at the forefront of this conversation, that it doesn't look the same for everybody. And so, just, I'd say.
So you would add to this maybe that it meets the needs of middle schoolers particularly?
That the educational needs are met for middle school students as 21st century learners. And I think that's two distinct pieces there. And again, I'll share, if anyone would like to read this new brief, 2 copies have come back, so great way to learn what... 3 copies, okay. Learn about middle schoolers and what's unique about this time in their lives.
Excuse me, Michelle, would it be a good idea for everyone to just read it?
Well, it would be, I just couldn't find enough copies.
Could everyone agree to read this book, and then you could go around the book and make sure everybody nods at you?
So there's a call for consensus by Steve that everyone in the team read this book. Any discussion about that?
I think this is an excellent book. And it really puts detail in many of those points that are on the wall there.
Do you have a time frame for that, Steve?
Well, it's 2 weeks until the next meeting, I don't know if that's...
I don't know if I have 2 copies here.
While we're on the topic, there's a website, this organization that put this book out has changed its name to the Association for Middle Level Education. And I'm just starting to look and see if maybe there's a download available on the website, which would help.
There could be and there is a new publication since this, but it's, because they
Okay.
So anyways, 2 more.
So we don't have a time frame for that because of the limitation. Okay, so team members, just having trouble with that one today. Team members will read this I believe book as soon as possible. Does that serve what you're talking about, Steve?
Sure.
Okay. Any other discussion or comments? Meg?
Well, it seems to me that shouldn't be in place of discussion, I don't know if that's what you meant.
Not at all.
No, because I felt that the questions that need to be discussed.
Okay. So, call for consensus. Is everyone willing to do this? Lauren?
It's about the book over there.
It's about the book. The team members will read the This I Believe book as soon as possible. Do we have consensus about that? Okay, cool. Way to go. Okay, what other comments would you have for this list here? This is when you get to start discussing things if you'd like.
Did we get consensus on the addition?
I'm not sure we need to, but we could. Yeah, that's fine. That's good. This is not a definitive list.
Is this the time to act on the possibility?
Absolutely, please do.
One of the things that I thought I heard quite a bit of the other night, and I feel, and I know Scott feels, is that whatever gets decided, that we also need to tell the voters what will happen to Morgan Middle School if it is not renovated, or, but that we be responsible about following through with another building if we decide that.
So that, okay, yes, Dorothy.
And my thought with talking with various people is that if we address what's going to happen to Morgan Middle School, the existing one, if another building is built, that kind of takes away from the trust that they have in us if we're addressing that too. Almost as if we prearranged in our mind to go ahead and build a new school, and I think we should keep all options open.
I didn't mean that at all, Dorothy, either. I was just saying that I think that was something that was wrong, that people objected to the last time, and I'm not trying to I'm just saying that anything we decide, should have, the whole picture should be looked at, whatever, that's what I was trying to say, not that I thought that.
How about calling long-term facilities?
Perhaps. Whatever, however we word that, I kind of feel strongly.
Yeah, and it's open to, I don't have magic words, so however that sounds to you.
Yeah. I had said that in particular item from Ron Robin when I got classified into something else by me. So I can't complain. But I think that our work needs to be done in the context of the district's long-term facility needs. And that's fine. So that we not, be planning what to do here, and not saying what else is going to happen and how it fits in. And we're coming back with another bond or something else.
So long-term facilities needs for the district? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so Loran has a question and then Marlene.
A follow-up question for Meg, I just wondered if that, is there a current, I tried to look at the website of the school district, is there a current facilities plan that has been agreed to that you feel is in force at the moment, and how could I find that? How could the public find where that is in the state, if it does exist?
Paul, can you speak to that question?
Well, there's a study and surveys document that should be on the website.
No, I just said that if we say your long-term facilities needs for the district, is there an agreement by the school district or the school board already, something that exists, that we could, if we were going to operationalize that and be concerned about, we would need to see what that plan is, so that we would all be aware of it.
It has not been agreed to by the school board.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
I was just going to say, if we could just put the wording in for any new or existing facility. Is that good?
Is that what you're thinking? What he's doing right there? Okay. Okay.
I'm not sure the total voters piece is about what's going to happen in Morgan. Those two are repeating each other.
So what you're saying, Meg, is tell the voters what's going to happen to Morgan.
Yeah.
And then what we do is in the context of long-term facilities needs for the district, and then Marlene.
I thought that just kind of encompassed both, because any new or existing facilities, we don't have to put renovation or not, we don't have to, it's just, I guess that's what it would be.
That's why I want
So you would like to
First of all, it's supposed to be about, inform the voters what the plan is for the existing Morgan school, whether we renovate it or not.
So specifically,
Call out your initial point raised by Mollie.
Yeah, and I was willing, because I agree with Dorothy, I don't want it to look like we are moving on in another direction, that I was willing to agree to the wording of long-range facilities.
And that's why I said, I didn't say renovation, I said any new or existing
Yeah,
facility.
I'm happy with any of it, as long as we just realize, I think
Okay,
that's something very important.
and again, this isn't a magic list thing, like this is just a structure for beginning to pour this content in. Any other comments on
I
this?
do have a question of clarification. So what is the purpose of this list?
The purpose of this list is to begin to structure the discussion so that the group will begin to have further criteria for decisions in order to create a common vision for the middle school. So these things need to be, in general, need to be included need to be considered in a common vision for the middle school. Does that help?
Yeah, rather than, I was thinking that we need some general topic areas that we would fill in, but if that's not what's happening, then I guess when my turn comes, I do have other things to add to this list, if it's meant to be going into more detail. These are several levels of generalization, and I'm
This is the
struggling
highest
with
level.
how generalizing we want to be at this point. I mean, I'd kind of like to see not going into specifics because we'll have a better chance of coming to consensus for moving on. But that's my thought right now.
Yeah, and actually those last two bullets both go under transparency in a way, so that they are getting more detailed than perhaps we were really doing general subject
Jimmie.
At some point or another, we are going to have to, in my opinion, become very specific about, for example, safety needs are met. What kind of school facilities are needed? Classes and classes, as it says in here, or schools and schools, all sorts of things are going to have to be defined much more clearly than these statements. These ought to help us get the most important things that we would like to see or would like to recommend that the building has. And then, once we do that, we can focus on the specifics, but we will have to get to specifics. Otherwise, we will fall guilty to the same charge that others have levied about the structure in the past.
Okay. Now, are there any other generalities or general topics that you want to see on this list? Because then we're going to get to specifics. Okay. What's that? Go back up.
This list was generated from Rollins from last week, right? So is this the type of insert items that the four of us maybe share this evening, or?
Yeah, if you feel that they don't fall under one of those categories, absolutely, this is absolutely the time to do it.
So I would like to see architecture that is inspiring.
Anything else? Okay, and I just want to say, probably some of this confusion has happened because trying to parse this apart. We're starting with this massive, this is where everybody is. Let's pull this together and not lose information. So that these are the general categories of things. We can come back to this list, we can add more things to the list. The team can add more things to this list. However, next is an item, and I'm just going to kind of pop forward unless anybody has trouble with this because people want very specific, some right here. So let's go there. There was a strong desire at the last meeting to create a timeline. Several members asked for that, including Paul, who was responsible for scheduling and presentations that need to happen and generally getting the materials that the team needs to work. So now would be the time where we start listing all those things that, as I sent around in an email, and Joanne, you wouldn't have had a chance to get that, but what things need to, what does the team need to address in future meetings? What questions do you need to have answered in order to move forward with the common vision here? What are important items that we need to address as well, whether it's a presentation or not? What are important things that the team needs to address? And then this is, ta-da! This is wonderful, Jeff, I really appreciate this. So this is the beginning of this that I took either from people who made direct comments to me or any number of things. Basically people addressed certain things to me. And what will happen is that we get to add to this list right now. The list can be as long as you want it to be. These are about things that need to be addressed, questions you need to have answered in order to reach a common vision in this team. And as you call them out, Jeff will write them down. I will also be writing them on sticky notes. This is the non-technological way to then we will fit this into the time frame that we have, which is 9 more meetings or more if the team decides that's necessary. This is going to be behind people for, everybody, so I'm just going to have to, for some people. And what we'll do is that once the list is complete, we'll begin to put them up here and see if we need to have, if the team needs to have more meetings, or if there are other ways to get this information happening. Is that clear? I don't think I explained it very well.
Question, you said that people had given you these, they just kind of spoke to you and said that they wanted these things to be on that. And so,
or else I picked them off, or else I picked them right off the out of the charge. Just to get it started.
I wanted to suggest that we have a way to prioritize those, like maybe have everyone see those in writing and then prioritize them. Because we can't do everything, plus the rest of the group needs to add what their things are.
And that's actually where we're going to go next. But first, what we need to do is get the list. And then what will happen, just in order to follow the process, we can't prioritize till we have the whole list. And part of that will come out in terms of how much time do we have. And we can go with that. Does that, be willing to finish the list first? Okay, just a second, Dorothy.
There are two things that seem to be missing. One for sure is missing, and the other is perhaps a little bit unclear. The one that is missing is actually articulated in item 3. I would state that as, what is the deliverable? What are we going to produce by the end of August or whatever the deadline is? And along with that needing to define what the deliverable is, I think we need to talk a little bit more about who the client is. We've all been invited here by Paul Farris and the school board. Are they really our clients? Maybe the voters are our clients. And that is going to need to inform the way the deliverable is structured. Forgive the jargon, we can also talk about what product is needed by the end of August, but none of this other stuff is of any value to us until we know what we're going to be doing with it.
So one of the things that you need to have happen is to clarify and to discuss and clarify who our clients are.
And what is the
deliverable, or what is the product?
It would be nice to go on for a few meetings, and then what we would produce would just sort of announce itself, because it would become clear after a while, but we don't really have that luxury.
Nor will it necessarily come out.
If you've got enough time at that.
Well, people get tired. Okay, great. So who is the client? Okay. So that's something that needs to be addressed. Dorothy had, and then Jimmie, and then Scott.
I would like to not only go to Morgan Middle School, the existing one, I would like to see where it stopped. They might build a new one. I would like to tour the high school to see if by any chance there's room there. I would
So just hold on just a second. So you'd like to tour Morgan. That's the tour Morgan with the builder?
Yes.
Okay, and then you also like to tour the high school?
And also the grounds where potentially there might be another Morgan Middle School built.
Okay, so those are separate things, so maybe just separate those out. Tour the high school and also tour the grounds on the high school / Valley View campus? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think that's where it's been suggested.
That's one of the options.
Put it in.
Can I make that more clear? Tour the grounds on the site where the proposed new school will be built.
I'm hearing that it was specific to the campus around the high school. Is that what you're saying?
I believe that that has been put forth as the only other alternative to leaving Morgan Middle School and remodeling it where it stands now. Is simply a position between Valley View and the high school. Is that so?
Does anyone else have a clarification just to Dorothy's question there?
I would say that that's not the only building site, so I would prefer to have it clear, to say optional building, the different building site options to tour.
Okay, so is that?
If there's other options, we should consider.
Okay.
So do we really need to tour the high school, or is it just the grounds that?
The different options, is that what I'm hearing?
I've understood there's space in the high school that is being used. I don't know, I've never been in there. But.
Oh, like where the middle schoolers are, the 8th graders are in the high school, that area?
I don't know. I've been told that there are corridors that don't go anywhere.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if there's room in there. Maybe that is.
We need to tour it.
Okay, so tour the high school?
We need to tour the high school just to play some of the emotions about the high school, and hopefully bring that to rest so we can move on with the.
Does it need to be when there's kids there or not?
Well,
No. No, we did both.
Okay, so you tour the high school, just want to clarify, I know there's some humor around it, but would it be helpful, or is anybody suggesting that we do it specifically when the students are there, or specifically when they're not?
Yes.
When the students are there, so could you add?
And I think we should discuss, people think that there's all this empty space that the 8th graders moved into, and I think it would be good to discuss how the high schoolers were displaced to accommodate the 8th graders, just so that people don't think, oh, well, there was, wherever the 8th graders are, it was empty before, because I don't think it was. So I think that should be part of that discussion.
So discuss how the high schoolers were displaced.
Thank you.
Okay, so, did you get your question answered there? Okay, and then there was Jimmie, and then Scott, and then Mollie. Okay, everybody else help me out with this too.
I just need some help because I don't remember us discussing any of those issues last time. Where did that list, how was it developed? I feel like I'm being led somewhere down a
garden path. Okay, how this list was created was that I went through the little Post-its that I had that people said, we need to, when I heard them say, we need to clarify the decision criteria on the charge. Or I heard, when I spoke with Dorothy, she said, we need to tour Morgan with the builder. Or I went to the charge that's in your books, and I said, okay, what things in there are specific that the team needs to look at?
I just never heard anything about Scott Rollins' group or mom presentation or anything after that presentation that went on earlier this spring or summer.
And this is not consensus, this is not a consensus. To be really, really clear about this, these are items that at least one person needs to have addressed in some way in order to come to a common vision for the middle school. This is not a consensus list that everybody wants to do this. This list is that one person or more than one person needs to have this addressed. Does that clarify, Jimmie? I want to address your concern that you're being led. And,
I understand, I still feel like I'm being led down a path. That's all.
Great,
That's my opinion.
and that's really valuable to me. So can you share with the team what would help you to not do it?
No, I'm not concerned about those. I just feel that they have not been discussed at all by this group. We came tonight and there they are.
Okay. Would it feel more comfortable to just start without a list? Because that's absolutely fine too.
No, I don't mean that.
Okay.
I just want everyone to understand that this is not something we did.
No, no. It's something I did.
That's my only point.
It's something I did, and I did that in the interest of giving examples, basically, and following through on my commitments to include these being addressed when people mention it to me. Are there any other comments from the team around Jimmie's concern? Mollie?
Well, just that I think we're as free to add things to this list, we're as free to take things off this list. If there's, I would think if there's something there that we all agree is not anything we wanted to do, so.
Absolutely, thank you. Anybody else have clarification on Jimmie's comment?
I agree that I have a similar concern that Jimmie's bringing up. Hopefully, maybe we can take those, so we switched to this list from the other list that was derived from last week. So maybe there's some way that we can bring those back together, perhaps by just adding all of these to the list. But eventually we could all add thousands of things, but we're going to have to condense at some point in order to decide on a focus that has a hope of producing a time schedule.
And that's absolutely, I absolutely agree with you there. And before we can condense though, we need to expand. We need to make absolutely sure that each person's concerns are addressed in some way. Everyone on this team, as I understand, came here with questions, concerns, things that they felt needed to be addressed, needed to be taken into account. For example, Michelle wants to make sure that this team considers the unique needs of middle school students. That needs to be addressed by the team in order for Michelle to feel to go forward with meeting a common vision. And it gets messy before it gets nice. That's the whole thing about consensus. It gets really messy. And in a perfect world, it gets really messy. Everybody is, at some point gets upset about things and works through them. And then we move forward into that condensation that says, okay, I've had my question answered and we're going to move on. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. And I apologize for the messiness, except that that's just the way it is. Yeah. Okay. So anybody else have comments about that? Or you have different comments? Okay, before we go there, any other comments about that? Scott, thank you for your patience.
I don't think there's a bigger issue that we're dealing with than the issue of cost. The school board has developed formal relationship with an architect's firm and a construction management firm that we can access to help us in our decision making. I would like to access those professionals in a cost analysis of our different options, so we can address the voters what the cost benefits are.
Okay. Any discussion about that? I agree completely.
Well, actually, I was, when I had my hand up to ask the next one, one of the things that we did learn the last time is that there are different levels of materials that are used. And so I would think that talking to the architects before we go on these tours would be very good, because then we can look at what the high school, what level they had used there, and whether that was something we felt was necessary or not, or whatever. So I think that would be really important prior to taking any tours.
So in terms of ordering these eventually in a timeline, you would like to talk to those professionals first before the tours happen. Is that what I'm, okay?
So that when we visit schools, we can see, if we go to Kittitas and they have they had a different kind of material selection, that we can see that and really understand what that means, what that looks like.
And I might like to add the word detailed before cost, a detailed cost analysis.
Okay, were you finished there, Molly?
I just finished.
Okay, sorry.
There's two things I'd like to add, as we discussed in the meeting that we down the road, which one is, that's bond options, funding options, for the community consultant. That's why I'm talking about bringing a bond expert in and a bond consultant, and doing bond and funding options for school districts, regardless of the type of construction. And the other one is I think it'd be helpful if we had somebody from the office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, the facilities committee, talking about the construction process. And we can also do that with a construction manager here in management, but I think that the process and the requirements that the state lays down in construction, regardless of the type of construction, I think it'd be helpful for the committee to at least understand, hopefully explain to the community what the process, what we're really doing.
Okay, Joanne, then Meg, then Loran.
So I had something in response to what Dick just said, and then I heard a different thing. On the funding options for the school districts, what I heard after the last bond, some people were questioning that we're continuing to use the same bonding, the D.A. Davidson consultant, and that some people felt that perhaps using a different bonding consultant might get us a better price, and to consider options with that. So we might want to discuss, do we have to go with that one company, or are there options with going to different companies? But I heard that more than once from other community members. And then my personal question was this number 21 review NAC report. Was that their qualification submittal, or did they do a report since you selected them? Pardon me? Oh, okay, so they weren't paid to do a report, they were doing a presentation to get the job, and that's what that is? It's a qualification submittal.
I think that I was pointing about that last time, and I suggested that people see the video of their presentation of the various architects that were competing. And because NEC was chosen, I suggested that people look at the video because they presented renderings, and it is well worth looking at their presentation.
Okay.
That was where I think that came from.
You're exactly right. It was a post-it. Okay, thank you. Okay, and let's see, Meg? Dick, you're finished? Okay.
Well, I would make what Dick said a little more specific by saying I would we should look at other funding options besides bonds too, if we can find any. And the other thing is, and I think there are some actually, but nobody would want to know. And then the other thing, when Dick talks about the construction process, I don't know if we're alluding, among other things, to the state assistance matching funds.
Well, that's part of it.
It's part of it, and I want to bring that to the fore, because I think different options we might look at might have different, we might get different support from the state for different options. And I think we need to understand that a lot better than we have.
And just so that you know, if there are other options that observers would like to see on this as well, we'll be taking a break in about 10 minutes. Go ahead and either write them on a comment card or we can add them at the 8 o'clock time. Okay, Loran, did you have another thing?
But I wanted to say I strongly support any of them that are about the bond funding and understanding the process. I feel I need to understand a lot more about that. But the one I would like to have is make a holistic comparison of costs regarding all the old structures, new structures, and estimated and future needs. A holistic and an objective comparison of costs, of cost scenarios, holistic and objective comparison of costs regarding, I guess I want to say, all proposed actions for middle school.
So you want to compare all the costs of the different options that we could go with?
Yes.
Whether the teacher board.
Yes.
Okay.
For example, a matter of that everything needs to be considered together. That's what I mean by the holistic comparison of costs. I guess
Okay. What else do people need what other questions do people need to have answered? Or things that need to be taken into account for them to feel that they can go forward, that they might have enough information or enough discussion or enough whatever to move forward in creating a common vision? Joanne, and then Meg.
Well, I know this is something that the middle school administrators put together previously, but I think this group needs to see the program that you put together, the building program that talks about the different spaces and the sizes, the number of spaces needed and the sizes to meet their program. That we need to see that as a committee to understand how large the school needs to be and what kind of spaces should be in the school.
So this is a presentation that would happen?
Well, or maybe a sheet of paper.
Okay.
With those spaces and proposed sizes.
Can I follow up on that? I think,
If you have clarification, Dick, yeah?
no, I'm not, well, maybe.
Related, yeah, go ahead, talk.
Is that, we talk about the goal, one of the goals is to best practices for 21st education, and I think it'd be helpful, what are those best practices for 6 to 8? I guess it's one thing to be a book, it's another thing to have a sheet, with the references to what those best practices are for middle schoolers for our district. So I think that would be helpful to this is what we're trying to do. Everybody has a common theme or a common understanding as to what we're trying to achieve, what we're trying to accomplish.
So you want to define the best practices for 21st century education in middle schools in districts of our size with references. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Meg.
To which I would add the question that the observer raised last time about what does that imply in terms of what physical structure you need to work to meet those. I mean, just because you say you need X number of rooms doesn't really say what kind of physical structure that has to be. And I just want to warn you, I have a whole long list here, so.
time to speak. You have time. That's what's supposed to happen now, actually, is anybody's list. It doesn't have to be a short list. It can be a long list.
Okay. Well, while we're on the subject of needs, in my opinion, we need better, in order to say what our needs are in middle school, we need better enrollment forecasts and demographic data on which they're based. We also need historical information, which I understand that my friends are more than people have, but I've never been able to get my hands on it. So the demographic and enrollment forecasts, enrollment paths in the future. That's one. Another one is why building specs differ between using Morgan for a school and using it for a community center, since this proposal has come up, everybody says, well, how come it's good enough for community centers, it's good enough for the kids, and how come it's not good enough for the kids, it's okay for a community center? Why are the requirements different? I can't even understand that.
In the notes, that's specs, not signs. Just on the notes. Okay.
Water issues. I've heard it said that there are water issues at both of the proposed sites, as well, and there might be other sites that are without water issues. I think it's been addressed, but I'm not sure everybody thinks it's been addressed.
So you're talking about groundwater issues?
Yeah, groundwater issues on the value campus, at high school value campus, and on Loran campus. I want to make sure we look at the possibilities of phased construction. This kind of relates to what Dorothy said last time about don't necessarily build everything you're ever going to need, just build something now and be prepared to add to it later. And I think we also need to do other kinds of value engineering and, everything we do to cut the costs. I guess it already has been covered. I would like to know, well, I guess I preface this by saying in my world, what we would do by August 30th is have a menu of options and a process for deciding among them. In other words, the decision criteria or some other set of criteria, or the report card that NAC used, or life cycle cost analysis, which is my translation of holistic comparison of costs, in other words, including environmental considerations and resource savings of various kinds. Anyway, I would like to see us come up with a menu of options and a way to decide among them by the end of August as a potential deliverable, and then by October have narrowed that down to what we can agree on. The reason I say that is, what is the reason I say that? Oh, if we are unable to do that, I would like to know if it's possible to put on the ballot and more than one, not on the February ballot, but say on the November, say, we have these two proposals, which one would you prefer? I know this was discussed last time, and I'm not sure it's impossible.
So you would like discussion about that?
Yeah.
Or clarification?
I could go on, but I'm going to shut up.
I think you should. Good job. So discussion or clarification about putting two options on the ballot? Yeah.
And with that said, I was wondering if we had a legal review of the resolution of bonding and the advertising, in other words, the legal process for not only construction.
I'm sorry, I missed that. The legal process?
Legal ratification procedures for constructing, for the board resolution for bond preparation. Because I think there were some comments made earlier that one of the concerns was how the resolutions were written and what have you. Certain things that have to happen, they want to make sure that maybe the team understands what all the legal ratifications are as it relates to not only construction, and putting the contract together and that part of the deal, but also about bond preparation, advertising, and resolution. Is that clear? Does that make sense? Folks?
Any questions about that? And Meg, if we could just, we got another addition here, but hold that list.
The gentleman that was sitting up at the front, the first meeting,
Darren,
who's with the police department and the fire department, brought up the need for a different entrance in case of an emergency. So the students and the emergency personnel aren't vying for the same entrance. And that brings to mind, I wonder if it's possible to get the issue addressed, to get the cleanest possible building material. Because students are having more and more compromised immune systems and they have allergies to the buildings. And I think that can, I know I've got these problems and I know that can make the difference between a successful school career and a non-very successful school career.
Okay, so they want to address the cleanest possible material, building material?
If possible, yes. And I know it costs more usually.
Or in other words, an environmentally healthy building?
Yes.
And I'm just going to do a process thing here. This is awkward, but there was a request for 2 breaks. So I would suggest that we take the second break now. We can either do it for 5 minutes or we can do it for 10 minutes. Is there a preference here? Okay. Does 5 minutes work for everybody? Okay, 5 minutes. So it is now 7:33, be back at 7:38. We'll convene the team. Yes, go ahead.
7:38, I don't want us to be delusional in the sense that we might be 6:38.
Oh, wait, yeah, it's 7:38, totally, 7:38. Yeah, I'm not. Okay, so, continuing on with this, as you can tell, we have 9 meetings in which to get to this. So I'd like to make sure that we get the remainder of the list, and then we will have time to start plugging them in at the meetings here, into the meetings. May, did you have a couple more, and were there, oh, wait, before you start. There was a request to add from one of the observers that to add the technology needs of the building and the district now and in the future. So whoever did that, thank you. Okay, sorry, Meg, next.
Okay, actually, I have a survey, but it's definitely from later on the time. Performing arts, I don't know, that must be up there somewhere. Yeah, okay, I think we explicitly need to hear from performing arts community, but they're interested in how they fit in with the school district.
Can I just add something to that?
Yeah.
Because I saw that on the last list that we had, that was up, and it was separate from meeting the educational needs, and it's been on my mind, and I thought I'm going to say it, that we really do consider that to be part of the educational needs, that is core curriculum is the arts.
Oh, yeah, so I'm not talking about the community, and the amount of overlap that's possible between public and but yes, of course. Yeah.
So there are 2 separate things. There's the community needs for performing arts, and there's also the performing arts of the education that needs to happen for middle schoolers.
Well, I guess I was just clear on the last list, it said to meet the educational needs, but then it also had performing arts, and to me, they're one and the same.
Yeah, and to me, they're not, because there was on the list if you want to hear about the community center, well, that has performing arts component too, and then there's other performing arts needs too, so it's not they all.
I don't see that on the list.
No, I didn't see those on the list.
It was on the last one.
Yeah, right, so we're gonna do it.
Okay.
Are you tracking that, because I can't see where it is?
Okay, another one is about land, there was handed out to the previous committee was an inventory of the district's land holdings, and which I thought was very interesting. There are some holdings in these things were there. And there also are ways to gain land that I think we ought to be informed about. Eminent domain, whether it's refusal, there's the streets. There are ways to expand the campuses that we have, and I think we should know about that. What the real possibilities are there. I mean, a little bit politically heavy-handed, perhaps. And finally, and this one is the one that's so much later, how we get house students during construction and other complexities that may impacts if
So there was something about
all those portables that we have.
So there's possibility for phase construction that was listed earlier, that had to do more with cost, and this is more about what do we do with the students in the process, okay. I didn't see which hand went up, so let me know. Okay, Jimmie?
Middle school teachers, I believe, do a lot of concept formation with students. And I know at one time they used to do a lot of list, lump and label kinds of things. I'm wondering if it would help if we did some list lumping and labeling sometime to try to get some kind of sense of this list of 42 or 43 things.
So what you would like to do is lump some of these together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Find some similar kinds of lumps.
Yeah.
And then put things in there.
Okay.
And then give them a name.
Okay. Okay, that's absolutely a possibility. There was a request, there were several requests last time to actually put these things into the meetings. So that at this point, time would be the lumper, the lumpy, the process of lumping. Would that suit you for the moment?
Sure.
Okay, and we will put down, so like lumping. Chunky. Okay.
I have a comment about the lumping.
Okay, and then we'll get, let's see, there's another hand. Okay, so comment about
I think that the tours, though, may be more appropriate to be lumped outside of these meetings, especially when you have to go out of town for some of the other tours. So we may want to lump those into a tour bus or
a tour bump. Okay. So the site tours, any site tours would be outside of the Wednesday meetings.
That's a suggestion.
Okay.
I think some of those that, you lump them, because I think the architect's presentation, or at least the charge of the architect will come, several of those could fall under that architectural presentation, for that architect to discuss and present. So, I think if you got 42, you're going to probably narrow this down to about a dozen less. Say those will be covered by so-and-so, by the construction manager, by the architect, or by bond consultant. So
We have Money Day and
right, and I think
architecture.
there's, identify those in the presentation and the discussion.
Okay. Okay, so, in just a minute, and then, Lauren, did you have an additional item? Okay.
Oh, I was going to say, some of the stuff in my things could be read. I give you a reading list, and I don't know that they would need to be accompanied by presentations.
And there's a space over here for outside activities, basically homework. Okay.
Comment on that, I strongly agree with that, but I would really like to see us working on gathering the information that's already been, even I, who haven't been very much involved over the last 4 years, know that this information is available. If people have done it over and over and over, can we get them to, sort of objectively summarize for us? Or I'm skeptical about the architecture part in some, but I support it only if there's something about cost that's going with that, or there's all those architects, that's all on video, all the architects who applied, and each of them spoke to the different options, and it's all there for people to watch. But anyway, my point is that compile all information from any constituencies about the renovation of Morgan as a middle school. That's coming from I feel like there's been all this information that's been done. It's because all the other bonds, all the failed bonds were about a new school. So I want to emphasize, compile all the information. It's a separate point. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's it. 43, 44, yeah. You want to make it a point, it was really just comment, an agreement with me. Compile all information from stakeholders about the renovation of Morgan as a middle school, the existing Morgan middle school. And my intent is to give it the same emphasis as has been for the construction of a new school.
To which I would have combinations. I mean, it's bothering me that people are talking about, we're talking about renovate versus new again, and as far as I'm concerned, we're not talking about renovate versus new, we're talking about a solution which may be renovation, may be new, maybe a combination, maybe something we haven't thought of before, and I would like to have us stop talking about renovate versus new. As if that was I'm not going to say about you, I'm just saying.
I just don't want to derail the process, but I just wanted to, can I come in and?
Just a minute. I was writing down. I was just writing this down. So what I heard from you, Meg, is that you would like to consider a mix of new and renovation.
Well, I just like to
As possible.
broad range of options and not talk about just those two as if they were the only two.
Okay. So a broad range of options. Okay, and so were you going to discuss that particular idea or clarify it?
I know what it's just that I'm really scared when I hear that how could we possibly really thoroughly scrutinize how many options can we thoroughly scrutinize? So maybe, I just try to say the process 46 being to give equal cost scrutiny to any proposed scenario. So, we want to drill to details, and we're saying that, and I really think that.
Okay, and there'll be time to discuss this as well.
I'm scared there won't be.
You're scared there won't be?
I am.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, yeah. And the team has the power to decide how much of that happens. This is about consensus. I mean, you've gotten the agenda so far, but once the comments are done here, then we create the agendas for the next 9 meetings, more or less. Okay? Any other comments to add? 47 and beyond? Make them talk.
Well, one of the things that I think we need to do is not only start lumping these together. When I talk like safety, environmental healthy needs, and tech, and that sort of thing, that's all architects can address a lot of that, those types of issues. So an architectural presentation addressing as many issues as possible on this list an OSBI presentation on perhaps state assistance. And I use the term state assistance instead of state tax because it was confusing in the last one when people thought it was actually a map. That's why I call it state assistance. But one of the things that I want to do is that we're going to have to start, at least in my mind, start really putting this information to this committee. And these presentations will need to start happening. The cost presentations, application, and all this stuff can really start kind of focusing this committee, but I do believe that we're going to have to start getting this information to the committee and present it. And I'm not sure exactly which one to start with. I was going to essentially contact the architects, and I was thinking about going down through this list to see which ones they would be able to address at perhaps the next meeting. Perhaps contacting OSBI and an individual here. Start talking about the architect and Hill about cost comparisons. But that's just kind of because I need to start pulling these resources when I start getting a little nervous because there's a lot here, and I want to make sure that it gets presented.
Okay, and that's actually where we're going to go. As soon as this list is, as soon as people feel good about this list, that their questions will be answered, or at least they have the potential to be answered if all of those items are included.
Is it safe to say that if somebody doesn't think it's something tonight, that they can bring it up at another time, and then that way, I mean, because people might be just stretching for ideas right now, and maybe
Does anybody have any problem with that, with this being an expandable list? Okay. And, you had mentioned the WSU survey, and I would like you to...
The WSU, we did a survey, hopefully this committee knows that. We did poll, and that survey will be available for the next meeting. And I think it might be a good place to start having a discussion. So I would propose that as an agenda item for the next meeting.
Okay, so you're proposing, so I just want to make sure, this list is complete as far as people know. Okay, so now the process is that we start putting all these things on a date. And your proposal, Paul, is that what gets put on tomorrow, July
For the next
16th?
meeting. I guess I'd want to hear from this group if they want.
And as part of the group, what would you like to do? What would you like to have?
Present or have the WSU survey become available to this committee.
How big is the document? Is it something that could be shared electronically via email?
I'm sure it could, yes.
So that we can look at it before the meeting?
Yes.
And so you have a request for that to be shared?
Well, I think a lot of these that are, huge documents, like the Cost Transparency Committee report, is something that I think is a good homework piece. There's a summary that's, 10 pages long or something like that. I might suggest that we lump together some of those things that are just documents that we can receive via email and review at home rather than take up meeting time.
But then discuss it, read them, but then say it would be an agenda item to discuss.
Yes.
Okay, so so look at these things, these lists of things, and there's a proposal that the WSU survey is presented or talked about with the results first shared by email so that people have a chance to look through them and discussion on this. What else would you like to do next week, the next meeting, 2 weeks from now?
One thing that makes sense, I guess, is we should read, which is probably a scary thought. Just what the Rollins meeting make brought that up, we were the holdings of the district, and say, okay, what do you have to work with? What do we have? And so I think that to me, that makes sense, is not only to the existing acreage and location, but the structures and the review. I think that this is what we have now, and this is what we're really working with. And given that, we're going, some of the discussions going beyond that, or just trying to work with what we already got. So, I mean, just an inventory and presentation, hopefully, a visual presentations to what we have and what we have. Some of the basic details.
And along those lines, I might suggest that the program, the middle school's program for the space needs that they have, would be a good piece of information. I mean, talking about existing, what do we have now, what are future needs?
We could move that
Needs for growth.
We could move that out to not the next one, only because, I'm not going to be here next meeting.
Oh, you're not?
But, I mean, Mike, Allison's gone too, so it would be Mike, Phillips, and she would do a fabulous job.
Well, tied in with that, I was going to suggest the enrollment forecast too, because people, it's one thing to say, this is the existing spaces that we're currently using, and here's the extra spaces we feel like we're going to need over time, and then the enrollment forecasts kind of tie into that, because I think a lot of people in the past have questioned how big the building are we building, and, do we need to spend the extra money?
There are no enrollment forecasts beyond 5 years, which is a problem, because per building, you have to be in a year long enough.
Okay, we have, could one night or one of our meetings just be dedicated to the, we're talking about defining what 21st century learning is about middle school needs. And if everybody has read this book, then we can have a time that's just dedicated to talking about the middle school perspective on this.
Which night would you like that to happen? Presumably not next time because you're not going to be here.
Yeah.
But early on in the process?
Well, whenever the team would like it, but I think that would be valuable, since those are kind of the goals of the committee.
So when would you propose?
I propose either the 30th or the 6th.
Do you have preference?
I don't know, I would, but I would be concerned with the number of meetings and what we need to pull together, that for 3 hours can be done just for that.
Yeah, that's true, that could be a good.
You're right, I did frame it that way, but it would not necessarily be a 3 hour work.
But they'll always be considered together?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Okay, great. And a process thing, it is 8 o'clock. Are there any comments that people from the observer section would like to share at this point? Okay, so we'll just go on. Oh, yes, Jeff.
I was thinking in the interest of transparency, it might be best maybe to not necessarily email all these documents, but put them in a public place so that people can see what we're looking at. And I mean, it's just
Like the cloud.
yeah, like on our website somewhere.
Okay.
Out of interest of the convenience of the members of the group, I would like to request that they actually email so we don't have to track it down on some website. But I do totally agree that they should be available publicly too.
Okay, so we have all these things that need to fit into these meetings or another way. How are we going to do that? I saw Meg, I saw Loran, I saw Steve. Meg.
Well, what I was going to say, to me, an early thing is to assemble these basic documents that people can read as homework and ask questions on at the meeting. And that seems to me to be a place to start besides the WSC survey. And I would volunteer to put together a reading list or basic documents that I think everybody should be familiar with.
Okay, and you will gather those and email them to the team?
I might I'll need some technical assistance because they aren't all electronic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then it was Loran and then Steve. Loran?
I think, no, I'll just pass on that. But, well, it's just an extra point somewhere along the way, is the information on tax, in property tax structure, anything we can gather about property tax information, that's enough to have it. Was it already out?
We have kind of a legal, we kind of have the bond, and that might fit in with property tax structure, and that could be a section of all the kind of legal.
Oh yeah, to be an agenda, I don't know.
One of those laws. But I do think that property tax and the burden, especially on people with large pieces of property, is a good thing for us to understand.
So you'd like to put the property tax information, the bond information, kind of fiscally bits together?
And given the recent letter at the end of the year, it's really helpful to have somebody talking about open space taxation versus strictly ad valorem value.
Certainly, I think instead of adding on 35, it needs to be a separate point.
Yeah.
I mean, they might have put in the same agenda on the meeting, that's.
So that was open space versus, it could be handled in the property tax.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so those are together. Okay, what about tours? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Steve. Go ahead, Steve, and then Jimmie.
On the agenda for our next meeting, if I could have 5 minutes, okay, maybe 10, to talk about the deliverable. I'll have an outline and a little more to say about it at that time.
Okay. I've got another Jimmie.
This is in reference to, I think it was 35, legal ramifications and review of board resolutions. It might be useful to look at the high school board resolution and the 4 resolutions for the Morgan Middle School that were unsuccessful. I don't know whether we need a legal interpretation of that or not. If we look at it and see what those bond resolutions said, and whether they were limiting or broad in scope, that might help us come up with some kind of a resolution.
As part of the bond funding sort of thing?
Yes.
Okay. And are you thinking, when would you like that? This is.
I don't think that should take a lot of time, so whenever we could fit it in at some point in time.
Okay, where would you like to put it in?
When would I like to fit it in?
Like sooner, later, September, August?
Oh, no, do it where you have room up there, put it there.
Right here?
Yeah, that's-
So this is, what these pieces of paper are, just to remind you, these are the middle school, you know, what's needed, what students need, what are the physical space needs, all that stuff, that's here. Do you want to have the bonding on that same day?
I don't think it should be in that. I mean, it's a different issue.
It's a different issue, do you want it on the same meeting, where there was talk about not having this take up 3 whole hours? Is that right, Bruce?
Yeah, but I think looking at bond, I'm sorry, the bond resolution, it seemed to line out when we're having a discussion about bond.
Yeah.
That's down, seems to me that's down the road, we need to know what.
Right, I mean, we have to understand the legal framework, potential thing, and also the political and regulatory framework that we have to do.
Different issue than what we're talking about here.
Okay. So you would like to put the bond stuff in the legal stuff? Okay. So August 6th is bond and legal day. July 30th is middle school needs, middle schoolers need, and physical spaces. We have some space in there as well. Joanne?
Well, I was thinking that the architectural presentation should be pretty early, and I don't know if it should be crammed into the same day that we're hearing about middle school needs, or very soon thereafter. I think it would be good to hear that before the bond and fiscal detail discussion. That's just a suggestion, comments.
I almost see, we've got the Robert Walker's plan, Scott's group, there's the setting thing. It seems like if we had an understanding of what each of those were, and then the architects presented and could talk about cost scrutiny for those, that seems like that all fits together. And that seems like that would take a whole night with all of those to get that understanding. So can you?
So why building specs differ between a school
Well, and
and
there's just all this, if we're going to hear about the architects about the pros and cons and the costs and all those things, I believe that, like Scott's, I think that some version of what each group has presented as an option can be addressed by the architects as well, so that, I don't know, maybe I'm off base, but.
Okay, is this about Michelle's comment?
What's about work?
Okay.
So, just process, just so folks are aware that cities work with NAC for the community center piece will probably not be until middle of August, we'll probably be drafted, which we can share, just to process that. Just so we're aware of that. I guess the piece I'm drafting with, I think it's critical that the architects come in early, but I'm not clear what we're asking. I would go back to the comment, or someone made that, they've done presentations with pros and cons. It's out there, it's public. There was a subsequent presentation to the board that I had to be there for, where you see the summary of the pros and cons of different approaches. So when we say the architect's coming and we're going to invest 3 hours, what are we saying? What are we, we don't have to answer that now, but if there are people who have expertise on this group, it might behoove us to frame those, have that circulated, and then give us an opportunity.
I have a question about what you're asking there. So, and this is maybe for Paul or someone else to answer. When NAC put together the presentation, did they have the middle school's program and needs when they did their presentation? Or usually when an architectural, pardon me?
They did meet with me and do a tour.
All of them, all 4 of them? Or did NAC meet with you after they already got the job?
Huddle and Uranus did a phone conference. NAC and Architects West met with me and did a tour. Actually, they did a tour. ALSC, I think. Or they did combine me.
I guess the point I'm making, or the question I'm asking is, they were trying to get a job without having a bunch of detailed programmatic information about our middle schoolers' needs, because they weren't hired yet. And so do we consider that's the report, those are the pros and cons, or do they need to gather more information from our school district to give us a better plan and more, more specific pros and cons that are more applicable? That was a presentation to get a job. They got the job. And does that need to be developed further? And so,
I guess I don't disagree, that's what I'm drafting. If the architect, I thought I heard, and if I heard incorrectly, was one of the initial presentations that we were going to work with. So if I plug that into the process, and we're not having middle school until the 30th, how does that play for any of the questions to the architects, or even what we're requesting of them to present? I'm not, and I'm really not fundamentally disagreeing, I'm just trying to understand, when we say the architects are coming, we have one shot. Well, I mean, for this group, in terms of how we begin to gather information from them and how we, and what questions we ask them.
Yeah, well, and that creates a question for me on this list here is, does there need to be more information sent to the architects about our specific needs before we can finalize our recommendations in October? Do they need to understand Ellensburg School District's middle school needs better before any of us can make an educated decision? And if so, where does that fall in this process? That might be another item to add on here.
That is to give the architects more information.
More specific information about our school district's needs, rather than what they gathered from one tour and some assumptions they made before a presentation.
I see you, Steve. Go ahead.
I found the video of the architect's presentation. It's 2 hours long. I haven't watched it yet. It seems to me that would be another useful item of homework so that everyone's on the same page with respect to knowing what's happened before and what their experience has been before. And so if we ask them, or when we ask them to come back, what sort of new information might we be asking them for?
So what you're suggesting is that as homework, that people watch that AC video or read the report, okay? See lots of this, okay? So it's on the homework list.
Where do you fund it?
What's that?
Where do you fund it?
Well, I have it in all schools, Firefox crash.
Okay, so that information can be provided once it's figured out. So we have 15 minutes. So we can, we still have a few things, but actually what I've seen is that next meeting, we do the WSU survey results, shared by email first. There's probably going to be some discussion around that. Inventory of district holdings, is that something that can be put together?
Right, email that out to the...
Okay. And then Steve, you're going to create a menu of options and the criteria or process and way to decide among them. And then...
No, I don't think so.
I'm sorry, what?
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to talk about the deliverables.
Okay. So May, you're going to do that?
Not for the next meeting, I don't think.
Okay.
I was going to do it on reading list for the next, I don't know, to be done before the next meeting so that people can discuss them at the meeting or whatever. I mean, that's what, it would be nice if we could get some material about, background material about what people could then ask questions about.
Okay, so I have a note here that by the 15th of August, there's a menu of options and a criteria or process and way to decide among them.
That's my sense about what our deliverables
Okay.
are.
I was wondering why I put it in the deliverables. That's great. So you want 10 minutes about what are our deliverables. Okay? And then also I will talk briefly about the colored cards so that this sort of thing, we can tell what kind of questions there are. Just a second. And I will email some information out about that prior to have questions after that. Okay, Loran.
Is it matter of the bonds, the topic of bonds and everything around bonds, what week is that on?
That is August 20th. So what we have now is for next time, a brief introduction of the colored consensus cards, the WSU survey results and discussion about that, inventory of district holdings, a 10-minute presentation by Steve about the deliverables. Okay, that's what we got.
That's not free enough.
It's not 3 hours, no.
Is there any, it seems to me that one of the key things is that what you're talking about, Michelle, is about the criteria you need for your inspiration. To me, that's happened early on, there's no, I know, that's what I'm saying, is that it's unfortunate, there's no way we can have that at the next meeting.
Well, I'm reading challenge.
We're waiting to, you want to change your location? Okay, well, it's unfortunate because I think that would be helpful right from the get-go because it seems to me, if I can just add, with the architects, in my opinion, they'll come at least twice. The first is that I think the media presentation, and one of the reasons why this committee is going the way it was, is that they had ad hoc committees around the community making certain proposals and presentation to the community. And I think we need to spend some time with each one of those to discuss what they really share, what those solutions, possible solutions were, and we have the architect here to listen. And so we not only can we quiz the proponents of these particular proposals, but also have quiz the architects and vice versa. And then, you know, if we get down the road, on this, we have them start talking about costs in some direction where there was some idea of where we want to go, then have architects come back and start more definitive costs and options to take a look at. But I think to take a look at some of the proposals already made to the community and discuss them, I think that's got to be going on too.
Could the next meeting have a bunch of the stuff that's like the legal things that seem like, I mean, the property tax,
Yeah, I don't think we should discuss the land without discussing the legal options.
So separate the bond and the legal back out?
well, there's like the property tax and one of the things that Meg wanted to talk about was other ways to gain land.
Okay, so what, the access professionals and access professionals and a cost analysis of a bond, consider different bonding consultant, look at what the bond resolutions said, property tax information, including open space, and considering the bond funding options. Those are, that might be a little much to add into this one. Okay, and I'm just going to stop you for a second, Bruce, just because Lauren had her hand up first.
I think that if we can do whatever we could do about bonds, it would fit in the schedule. Shoot, Linda, what was that last, you just listed a bunch of them.
Yeah.
That one of them, I think we should consider early on is ways to understand that I wanted to say let's review all the previous bonds. We just got that information, but can we have that as a discussion item, the previous bonds? And then we've talked about no open-ended funds or expenses. That was on the summary of what someone said last time, which I certainly agreed with. But I'd like to understand how can it work? This could be the engineers, not necessarily the architects, but how do you limit expenses? Someone said no open-ended funds or expenses, and excess funds be used to pay down the debt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So
total costs including interest, et cetera.
So what are you suggesting, talking about that next meeting?
Yeah, I'm suggesting review the other bonds, so that people can understand, because if we are going to approach matters of cost, then I think people have to understand how costs are generated in terms of both property taxes and any potential ways to limit costs. I just think we should get that out on the table early.
Okay, so would it be, just a reality test here, is it possible to look at what all the former bond resolutions said?
I think it's important to add the word, unless you just did, resolutions.
Bond resolutions? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to ask that again by anybody that knows. Paul? Is it possible to get these, Paul and Dick, maybe you would know this as well? Is it possible to get those together before the next meeting?
What's the issue with that resolution?
Well, I mean, some of the issues were about the wording and following up on the open ended. A lot of that is bond, and how the bond is structured, and then the legal ramifications, how we explain to the public. And there are certain guidelines and limits that you can do that, but I think that needs to be shared with the group. And, you know, when they ask the questions of the bond and the attorney, the bond attorney, the answer was that those concerns, but it seems to me, talking about bond earlier on is premature, because we don't even know what we're talking about as it relates to any facility or government or anything. So it seems to me, that's down the road, that's in our district, when we have more definitive guidance of where we're heading as a committee, at least for serious options to take a look at. And a lot of that's got to do with the bond and how it's structured, and I think that's down the road. The committee's not addressing, that's true.
I mean, what I would suggest for
Okay, I'm going to stop you for a minute, because Bruce has had his hand up a lot, and then you may.
I don't understand the intent in that discussion, either the resolution, I just need to say that, or we need to look at it now. The piece that I want to go back to is the legal piece, because what I recall, if we're looking at land use and potential siting, which is part of what I understand we've been talking about, the issue that I put on the table was not related to the bond. It's a land use issue. And it's eminent domain, it's right of way, it's all those kinds of things that a public entity can utilize if they choose to site property or need property for the public good. That's a very, very different legal discussion than having a bond lawyer or whatever they're going to be come in here. And so if so I don't really want to lose that, because I think it's important. If we're looking at land that the district controls, and we're beginning to talk about potential sites, the only thing I heard Mike put on the table was, what are the other options be, as this committee may want to look at, for obtaining property that may be appropriate to meet the educational goals in the district. That's the piece, and that's a different, I mean, if we need a talking attorney, that's a different attorney than a bond attorney. And it's a different conversation for this group to have.
Okay. And do you have a sense of when you'd like to have that?
Well, if we're going to be looking at the property, I think it would be helpful to frame, you know, because if you only look at, I don't know what you got, you know, but if you only look at this, but, and somebody in the group says, well, no, really, if you just added this and this, look what we would have. We, as a group, I mean, you get a common consensus, we as a group then need to understand how we would get to this and this. And it seems like that's an appropriate time to do so.
Okay. You know, so we'll add the land use questions, the land use / what's available. I can't find the closest, so I'm not gonna wait, but I made another, so, okay, so we'll add that.
It's my understanding that a bond issue, that a bond resolution is something apart from the bond itself. The bond issue resolution is what the board passes in terms of how that is going to be implemented. That, I think, is crucial, because that provides opportunities for other expenditures of money beyond that in the bond. I mean, in terms of uses, other uses than that particularly in the bond.
Well,
Is that correct?
But to me, the
Yes, that did happen in the past, and that's why I'm saying
Okay, we're not
I think it should be on the agenda as a resolution, different from the bond itself.
Okay. Now, Meg, sorry.
What I was going to say about the resolution is that it implements the decision of, the recommendation that this committee makes and the decision that the school board makes. But this committee can certainly give the guidance that we don't want extra funding, the bond to be available for other uses, but I don't think we have to, I think it's way premature to look at the resolution. It is after our deliverable. Our deliverable should include criteria for the resolution, but, we don't have to be regular. But I wanted to go back to the agenda. My proposal is that the thing we add in this, besides the land, if we can get an attorney to talk to us in time, we'll be laying this stuff out for good, but if not, it's just background information. I think we should largely be looking at background information next time. We should have all the excerpts from these prior reports and proposals from these different groups, and that people get a chance to look at ahead of time, and the land inventory, so people will know some basic facts about what the discussion has been so far. And that's the biggest agenda. That's what I would add to the agenda next time.
Okay, so all those reports, and now there was a request to have the prior bond resolution wording available as well as part of that.
Which, isn't that what we have, right? No, I don't know if it's a resolution wording, I think it's what the different issues are.
Oh, just the history. Okay, and so process issue here, and I know, Marlene, you've had your hand up here. We have 2 minutes. It would have, the plan was to get all the way to the end, doesn't matter, because if we know what we're gonna do next time, then we can address this again, and we can do this as well as by email. What we have now is just a very brief introduction to the colored consensus card, the WSU survey, inventory of district holdings, and then looking at prior information, the Scott Rollins Group, the Walker Plan, SPFC, cost analysis, or cost transparency, the SETI report, and then a 10-minute presentation by Steve on deliverables. We have this to our clients as well. I don't know where that, you had said something.
I'll touch on that.
Okay. Okay, so that's what we have. I will take that and see what the time looks like, and I will email it out to you. If it ends up 4 hours, then we can decide what to do. Marlene?
Did you not have the land thing there, that we're talking about the options of what can be done with land?
Yeah, the inventory of district holdings.
Who will be, no, the inventory I know, but such as eminent domain and stuff, who will be presenting that? Because I don't think it's, I would rather not have it brought up unless we had somebody.
I'm trying to get, there's an attorney with Pfeifer that specializes in eminent domain, those types of things, so I try to
That's
that person.
And how long would that take? Yes? I don't know. Not very long, yeah. Okay, so.
$50 an hour.
By the way, the Rollins plan is not in writing.
It's not what?
In writing. The Rollins plan, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't have anything written about your...
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't? Okay, we'll take that one out then, because this is for written things, is that it? Okay. Okay, so we'll put Scott Rollins in here. Okay, so that's what the agenda looks like next time, and we need to end the meeting at 8:30. So thank you all, and good stuff. It's getting messy.
We're going to do, it seems to me, we need to go over that 2 3 weeks down the